Hello and welcome to Fresh Perspectives. My name is Gail. Today, my guest is going to be one of our very own crew members here from Access Channel 5, Randy Burt. And he's going to talk about his travels around the world. Now, how is it that you had the chance to do all this traveling?
Well, Gail, good morning. I started out, I had a job that was paying pretty good at the time, and just not very much. I bought a trailer, it wasn't very expensive, so I started out just like going to Florida, and then I wanted to go a little farther. I went to the West Coast, Las Vegas, LA, and I just got the travel bug. I mean, it just bit me. Mm-hmm. So after a few trips around the 48 states, I want to go to Hawaii. And I called and asked the travel agent, actually I called American Airlines. And they hit me up with a price of like just over $500. And it's like, really? Mm-hmm. So I booked myself and my dad, and we took off to Hawaii. And that was,
you and your father went.
I took my dad. We stopped in California on the way and went to the Price is Right. And I took him. He was scared to death of flying, terribly scared, mm-hmm. but got him to Hawaii. He enjoyed it. Got him back to Dallas on the way back, and he wouldn't fly anymore. He was not going to get on that plane. And finally I got him on, and he just shook on takeoff. He didn't like the takeoff and the landing, and then after that I just had to go back to Hawaii. First trip to Hawaii, I snorkeled, so I wanted to go scuba dive, and I learned to scuba dive over there. And so after several trips to Hawaii, it's like, I want to go farther. So one day I'm going to take a one-day cruise to the Bahamas, or fly down to the Bahamas in the morning and fly back. And the other travel agent there heard me talking how bad I wanted to go around the world. And all I had seen was tours, with mm-hmm. groups going. I didn't want to do it that way. I wanted to do it on my own, and she told me about TWA around the world airfare. You get 365 days as long as you go in one direction and don't backtrack. Uh-huh. And you can use that, and it's like, I'm going to do that. And it was probably 6 months to plan the first trip. There was no computers back then.
No.
Back in I think it was 86, 87.
Uh-huh.
And you got the little airline guides at the airport, people probably seen, and I just combed through these things and found out how I wanted to route it. Well, I had to use a second airline to do the around the world. So TWA was my first airline, and I had to use one foreign airline. Well, I'm not happy with just this and that, so I ended up using Japan Airlines and several other airlines. And the next thing was, where do I want to go? Well, I'm going around the world. I'm going to see everything I've heard of, like the Eiffel Tower, London, Buckingham Palace. I want to go see the pyramids. There's some reason I want to go to Bombay, India, and I want to go to Japan. And all this will bring me back to Hawaii. And then I'll spend a few days there scuba diving and then home. Well, when I was in Japan, I was supposed to catch up with my brother. He was in the military. Uh-huh. And of course, about the time I got to Japan, he had to go somewhere else.
Oh.
I think it was Korea or somewhere, so that didn't work. And about the time I left, he came back.
Oh.
But starting out, I flew to London, England, and it's like an overnight flight. You get there in the morning, and I just got my motel. Well, couldn't really get the motel right away. You never could get in a motel till the afternoon. So I just walked around and tried to start seeing whatever I could see. And when I got to London, first place I found that I really liked, I walked to was the Tower of London. Uh-huh. That was probably my favorite part of London on the 2 trips I was there. Spent quite a bit of time at the Tower of London. It was cool. They just had a tornado out there a few days before I left.
Oh, so, in London, England?
And there was a lot of debris down.
Oh,
and so I walked around. I saw the Parliament with Big Ben, but I do have some pictures.
Yeah. You
I'm
love to
forgetting.
take pictures of interesting things.
This I'm going to say is Buckingham Palace. This has been 30 years, so some of my memories are sort of fading, but Buckingham
This
Palace.
was before you were married then?
Yeah, oh, definitely. And so this is Buckingham Palace. I walked by that, and I had to say I'd seen it. There's a close-up of the guard, one of the guards. Okay, now Victoria Station's a train station, but it's also bus, subway. This was my main, how would you say it? If I got to Victoria Station, I can find my way back to the motel. So it was my main point of the
Oh, it was your point of reference.
point of reference in London. So after 2 days of London, I think it was, walking around. Well, I spent like the first day jet lagged.
Oh, I suppose.
When you're flying in the time zone, I had never been jet lagged, and I'm pretty sure I slept 24 hours. But I walked around. Well, from London, I got to see the sights. All I did on my trips was walk, so I did a lot of walking. And I got on a train at Victoria Station now, and I'm going down to Dover to catch what they call a hovercraft, which at first, this is a hovercraft. I first wanted to take the ship because I wanted to be on a ship, but this is across the English Channel. And it holds somewhere like 50 cars and 200 to 300 people. And it goes up to 70 miles an hour, and you cross the English Channel. You can't see anything out the windows because it's spraying so bad. But
Okay, so this is something that, this hovercraft is something that sits on top of the water then, or what?
have you ever seen the police hovercraft? This actually comes up above the water and it just skims. Because when it came into Dover, it just drove right up on that beach and deflated. And then they unload the cars and load the new cars. But one of the funny trips on the way to
I've seen helicopters with like
pontoons.
the pontoons on them.
This actually goes above the water.
It's above the water.
Almost like an airplane. When you're in there, it's almost like getting airplane instructions when you're like flying. But on the way to the hovercraft, I'm at Victoria Station getting ready to go on the train, and I was saying there was a tornado. Here's a newspaper, here's a train bridge, and here's the train. The bridge had collapsed. And I'm like, yeah. But the whole trip to Dover, probably 2 hours from London, there was a lot of stopping. You could hear them cutting up trees from the tornado. So once I got to Dover, it was a two-hour train ride to Paris, France. Well, we're still back in London here. So this is the Tower Bridge. They used to cut people's heads off and hang them on the side of the bridge till they rotted, and then they would fall into the water.
Oh, ish.
Yeah.
You mean back in medieval times?
Yeah, because they still had a guillotine at the Tower of London, and I think it had been a few years earlier they'd cut somebody's head off with it. So it was still something they used over there.
Ew.
Now, one thing about the Tower of London, you've heard of the crown jewels?
Yeah.
That's where they're at. I was like, I went into a room, and it's the crown jewels that you always hear about when you're talking about England.
Okay, and that is in a building near the bridge?
Yeah, it's right next to the bridge.
Next to the bridge?
'Cause I think that's where they would cut the heads off and take them over the bridge and hang them.
Ew.
When they,
That's disgusting.
yeah. I mean, they had different buildings. I didn't even go up in because talk about claustrophobia. The stairway was so tight to get upstairs. And it's like, but they warned people there. The beefeaters are the people that operate it. They call them the beefeaters.
The beefeaters?
Yeah. And they warn people to watch out, like ladies with their purses, because a lot of pickpocketing goes in there. So, Chris, do we have any other pictures from London? I guess not. Okay.
Okay.
So
shall we head on over to Paris, France?
now let's go to Paris now. Paris is, who hasn't wanted to go to Paris? Now, this is the Eiffel Tower, a couple different pictures of it. I did go to the top of it.
I'll tell you though, some of the things you've been hearing about going on over in Europe.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it makes you wonder too much about visiting.
Yeah, it's gotten a little really, I mean, it was bad back then, but when you're in like the airport in Paris, they tell you do not leave your suitcase. They'll destroy it right on the scene. If you like left it and walked in the bathroom, they could just destroy it right there. So they're real paranoid. I mean, so in Paris, did I have some other pictures there, Chris? This, if I'm not mistaken, is, you've heard of Notre Dame? Or
Yes.
Notre Dame? This is from a boat ride on a river. It's not too far from the Eiffel Tower.
Okay,
Right.
you were on a boat when you took
Yeah.
this picture?
I'm going down on the river there on this big long boat. Might have seen them in movies. And I didn't get out. My destination in Paris was the Eiffel Tower, and I walked a long ways to get to it. And I walked. It's so big, it looks like it's not very far, and you just keep walking and walking. But they had the Opera House and different things I went by that I've heard of.
Yeah.
Do we have anything else, Chris, in Paris? Oh, okay. What's this?
It looks like a bidet.
Oh, man. I put this on the internet one time and like telling people I couldn't figure out how to use the drinking fountain. It's like they had this in my room and I just had to grab a picture of it because I don't see that many of them in the United States. Wouldn't even know how it works, but it didn't work as a drinking fountain, so all I know.
That's not what it was invented for.
I have put stuff like that on the internet, and now what do you use that for?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that the viewers probably know. You know,
Oh, they know more than I
we
do.
don't know. We probably don't really want to get into it
No,
on
it's just
public television.
one of those crazy jokes. This is the train. Now, when I left Paris the first trip, I trained down to the Riviera. This goes almost 200 miles an hour.
Wow,
And
that's fast.
we had one problem on it. Somebody had a heart attack and had to stop. The conductor paced back and forth because, we're blocking all the trains from Paris to Marseille area. But when you would go by another train, it would sound like a bomb, just boom, and it's gone.
Oh.
And it was-
So, what do they do if somebody has a heart attack?
they had to stop and wait for an ambulance, but we're in some town, which I don't even know where I was, and but you're flying on that train. And the French trains are really smooth. The rails are long. So the other trains got short rails, so you got, like that. And the French trains use pretty long rails, but you also go through some mountain. I think it's in the Swiss Alps. And you're going through this forever like a tunnel in a mountain. And you can tell you're going up or down because your ears are popping. And like anymore, I don't know if I would want to go through it. But so I went down through the Riviera, different trains in different places, through Monte Carlo, and fell asleep, woke up, like the train stopped. I'm like, did I miss getting off? And it was like, no, what they do is they switch cars. And you can start out with an electric engine and go to a diesel, and they hook other cars on and unhook them. And I'm like, and then the customs officer there, just before you go into Italy, comes through with the dogs. And I never knew if it was a conductor or customs, so I just hold up my passport, my ticket, They see, American, oh, okay. And they would go on. So it was mostly a night ride down to Rome, Italy. In Rome, I was only there just over 24 hours. And as I say, I walked. This is one of the fountains in Rome that you've seen a lot of. You see a lot of pictures. I don't think that's the one where you throw the coin in and you'll return, Trevini, but it was cool. The shopping places, little restaurants are all on like backs. I don't know, alleyways. That's what you would call it. In Jamestown, I wouldn't even dare go through it. This is on the way over to the Vatican.
Oh.
The first day I was there, I wanted to go to the Vatican, but it was like, it looked so close. I'm walking, it's getting dark, and it's like, maybe I shouldn't be out. So I walked back Well, the next morning I found a shortcut over to the
Oh.
Vatican, and I walked around the Vatican, which was unreal.
Uh-huh.
I'm not Catholic, but that place is, it's big and it's just really interesting.
Uh-huh, I can imagine. That's a really interesting looking bridge too in the picture.
Yeah, don't ask me the name of the river. It's one of the big rivers in Rome, but we have more, Chris? Oh, here's my...
The Colosseum.
Oh, yes, I spent a
Yeah.
lot of time at the Coliseum. This was just really interesting. I mean, I've seen this in pictures. There used to be a show on TV, To Rome with Love. They always showed
Rome with Love?
something like this. I got, I think, another one. This is like two pictures together of it, showing it, but there's pretty much a shot you would get this show that was To Rome with Love. And I spent a lot of time walking around there that day, and from there I went to next picture. I think hopefully is Roman ruins.
Oh.
Now this has got a really weird story because I was there. Wasn't what I thought it would be, but when I got down to Egypt, I ran into some missionaries on a tour I was taking,
Uh-huh.
and they had talked to me there several days earlier at the Roman ruins.
Oh.
And we ran into each other again down
Wow,
in Egypt.
yeah.
So it's a small world.
Yes, it is, isn't it?
But Rome was, it was interesting. I wanted to get a watch there that was like probably $500, but it was like, I don't want to spend that much money. Now we are in Cairo, Egypt.
Oh.
I flew from, after Rome, I trained to Munich, Germany, back to Paris, and then I flew to Tel Aviv because of a flight change, which Tel Aviv, Israel,
Yeah.
is this part of the world I'm not used to. This is just scary because customs were like, why are you here? I'm only changing airlines. I'm trying to explain, how can you travel with us? How can you afford to travel? And then they get their supervisor, which looks just like them, and they come out. They ask you the same questions. And it was like, I'm not getting out of Tel Aviv. The first thing in Tel Aviv, your airplane pulls in and you got tanks and stuff right there. Like, and I'm on TWA, which is an American airline. And it's like,
Yeah.
from Tel Aviv, I got on this old 707 airline. It's got like luggage racks, like a bus, and flew from there to Cairo. It was LL Israel. Now that airline's had some hijacking issues over the years, being an Israeli. In Tel Aviv, you do not want to get your passport stamped, because if you have an Israeli stamp on your passport, a lot of countries won't let you in.
Uh-huh.
So they will actually give you a card. You get stamped when you get there, and when you give it back when you leave. Because so from there, it was on to Cairo. Now everybody has wanted to go to Cairo and see the pyramids,
Uh-huh.
and this
And
is
you
one
did.
of them. There's three. I'm trying to think. The pyramids, a lot of things when you go to see it are never as big as you think they are. That's me down there.
Oh, yes.
A shirt from Rome. So I got somebody to take my picture. Also,
yeah.
now this is the entrance to go inside the pyramid.
Oh.
That's how you go. You climb up some rocks and there's a hole, and you go in there, and going up inside is sort of claustrophobic because they have a walkway to go up to the burial room, but you're going up, people are coming down, it's hot. You get to the burial room and there's nothing in there. They've stripped it all out. But
Yeah.
you cannot take your camera in there. So here you are, there's a rock here, and there's 50 cameras there, and you're like hoping nobody steals your camera while you're in
Right.
there. But
I know.
it was good. Went to the pyramids, I think 3 different times. The second day I got in it, I did ride a camel at the pyramid. This is some of the camels there. Now, if this guy sees me taking a picture of his camels, you have to pay him. So I'm trying to shoot out of the bus window.
Oh.
This is me on a camel. Hi ho silver.
Oh, that's you on
That's me at the pyramids on a camel. I never laughed so hard because when the camel was sitting down when I got on it, and it got up and it's just wobbling, and I'm cracking up. But the kid that I rented the camel from, he's in one of the pictures here somewhere. Chris is probably looking for it, but just a young kid, and they ask you for £5, which ain't a lot, but when the ride's over, they try to take everything you have.
Oh, is that right?
Oh yeah, they're trying to rob you silly.
Oh.
Now this is back in town by my motel. This is the Egyptian Museum.
Uh-huh.
This has like King Tut's tomb stuff in it, and
Yeah.
this is right next to my motel, so I could walk out the back, and I'm there in like 30 seconds. I did a lot of eating at their snack bar. And,
Yeah, you know, the thing that there's something that I've been thinking a lot about lately, and you know how you hear a lot of talk about cemeteries being sacred places and all that, and people should not vandalize a graveyard and all that. And then you hear, like you were mentioning about everything having been stripped out.
oh, that was stripped years ago.
You know, I mean, and there's like mummies and like that in museums
Yep.
and stuff like that. And somehow, I'm not sure that seems right. You know what I mean?
Yeah, well, these were robbed many years ago, and for one thing, back then it were impossible just about to find the entrance to the way they were made.
Oh, yeah?
They were made so nobody could find their way in, but people did find their ways in.
Eventually, somebody...
And they took all there was a lot of probably gold, and they took everything out of there. You couldn't take your camera, and you had to leave it outside, but so I'm not sure what I got for other pictures. This is the kid, the camel I rode. This kid was a little con artist. All I can remember when I'm on a camel is he goes, "Hi-ho, silver."
The kid said that?
Yeah. It's like, and then somebody goes, "They put that hat on you?" Now, going back through Cairo on the way back to the motel, this is one of the pictures I took. Went through this old, really scummy part of town, and not in this picture, but they were spraying. I don't know if it was like mosquito spray, bug spray.
Oh.
And they're like, what are we getting into? You know, we're on a bus, but still, you're going. They're spraying it for something, and
you don't want to. You don't want to wind up with leukemia or lymphoma
you have
just because
no idea what you went through.
Yeah.
But it must be they would spray for bugs and stuff over there. That's all I can think. Okay, this motel in the center of the picture is the Hilton, Nile Hilton. This is the Nile River. I stayed in just to the left of the hotel, just back a little, is the Egyptian Museum. Now, in back of this hotel is where all the protests they had here a few years ago in Egypt when they were protesting. I think it's called Tahrir Square. I'm on like an observation tower across the Nile River. I stayed here 5 nights, which was way too much. And my biggest problem here was they didn't tell you at first you're supposed to pay every day with your credit card. So when it came checkout time, I had to go to a bank and they're cashing all my, what do they call those, American Express, like traveler's checks to pay to get out of this stupid place.
Oh, God.
And I was not real happy. I mean, it was a nice motel. There has, since I've been there, there was a big political assassination out front of it. Maybe on the left side I've seen pictures of. But the Nile River, it's
very green looking.
Yeah, I'm not sure if the sky does that or the pictures, but I heard if you drink from the Nile or get water in it, you could, die because bacteria or something in the Nile River. But it didn't stop boats on it from going. Okay, now we're going to move on now. Cairo was a nightmare to me. Even though I went to the pyramids a few times, I hated it because I was not prepared for it. Everybody wants to sell you something or trade. I had a Buffalo Bills shirt on, and the guy at the souvenir shop at the motel wanted to trade it right there for 2 shirts of his. Like, he sold shirts. He wanted my Buffalo Bills shirt for his kid. I didn't trade because I was like freaking because I'd never heard of bartering. And everybody was on you, and it's like...
So you didn't trade then?
I didn't trade. I was like... I was scared to death when I was there. every building you walk by was like an embassy, and they're like right on the machine guns. It's like,
Oh,
what am I getting into? It's
Yeah.
like I couldn't read the writing, so I didn't know really what embassies they were. But not sure if we were going to go on now. After I finally escaped out of Egypt, because now the next problem was I went to the airport and my travel agent had messed up my ticket and they wouldn't accept it. And it's nighttime and TWA don't have an office open. They sent me to another terminal in a taxi and TWA wasn't open. So I ended up buying another ticket from there to Bombay, India, like over $500. Now, all my cash is getting drained because of that motel and buying that ticket. So now I'm heading to Bombay, India. Now I'm in a Holiday Inn motel, a place called Juhu Beach. And it's really weird. I've had people on the Bemis-Stowe ferry from there. And this is one of the little villages out my window. And this is their well. They have animals running around. Chris, you got the next picture? This is what they live in. This is a little. I mean, there's big big motels around it, but people are living in these houses, and they're begging. Begging was really big over there. They're poor. Same with Egypt. They were begging. They all have relatives in San Francisco. Now this is the beach, and I think if I remember, it's the Arabian Sea. This is out back of my motel. So
that's quite the beach umbrella they've got there.
Bring your animal and everything else. So there was animals. I stayed right on motel property because the first time I got to the edge, somebody was trying to sell me magic racks.
Magic racks?
Magic racks, yep. And I no thank you. So, and I just thought this was cool. I mean, you're looking out your window, and you're seeing camels and on the beach and stuff. And it was just really awesome. And I'm not sure if we have any more. Okay, now we're on to
Bangkok.
This should be Bangkok.
Yeah. It doesn't look like India anymore.
Wait a minute, that's Shangri-La. That's not Thailand. No, I'm sorry. This is Singapore. I got my
Singapore
pictures. As I say, it's been 30 years. Singapore. That's a Shangri-La hotel that tall when I stayed in. The picture on the bottom left is like it's a good place to shop. You can buy stuff for hardly anything.
Oh, really?
And then it's like a mosque or something on the right side. So the bus tour, I took a bus tour there, stopped there as one of the stops. But I got a little ahead of myself on that. We'll see what we got next here. Okay, we're still in Singapore. It's the same two pictures.
Right.
Had the best breakfast in the world at the Shangri-La. It was included in my
It was included
ticket,
in the stay.
But in Singapore, I walked around. It was really hot because you're right on the equator almost. And I got back to the hotel, and it was like I got to fly. I'd already had to check out of my room, and they cut my suitcases while
They cut your suitcase?
they keep them for you during the day so you can go out until it's time to go to the airport. And I wanted to shower, and it's like they had some guarded rooms, and I was able to use one of the showers there, and it's like, thank you, because it's so hot, you're just sweating to death. So we got a little ahead of ourselves here, but let's see what we got next. Australia. Okay, we must have somehow...
Yeah, this is out of order according to this.
Yeah, somehow I got messed up here. Let's go from Cairo to Bombay. Okay, I'm going to just say a couple things about Bombay since I got way behind here. When I got to Bombay, they were having like the World Series of cricket.
Oh.
And everywhere you went, they were watching it on TV. At the airport, the security and everybody. The kid at the motel tried to explain it to me. Now, cricket's just baseball. The guy runs it and throws the ball, and it looks like he's got a piece of wood. He hits it, but that's about all I can figure out with it. So after I left, finally, the reason I went to Bombay was they had I think it was a third grade teacher that had been there. And one day they made like a meal from India, and it always stuck in my head, and it's like, I got to go to Bombay. But I spent most of the time at the motel, except the one day I did go into town on a bus, because I was at Juhu Beach just outside. They had a bus that took me in, and I walked around, and all of a sudden I got this dirty, scummy kid trying to sell me drugs. And I cannot shake this kid for nothing. And it's like, no. Finally, I walked onto some motel property, and he didn't dare walk on it. It was like a force field to him. And somehow I shook the kid there, but he would not leave me alone. But Bombay itself was, a big city. Outside of it was pretty bad. From Bombay, I stopped in Bangkok, Thailand for about 12 hours. I had to get to Tokyo, and the only way I could do was to buy a ticket from Bombay to Bangkok and then get back on Japan Airlines. So guy signed me up for a tour at the airport. I think it was a bus, and get off at this motel. Car pulls up, it's a guy and a girl. I'm like, what am I getting into? They took me around all these different mosques or churches, and real nice. And last stop was a Turkish massage parlor, and it's like, I think I'm going to pass, And they had to take it to different shops there. They said it was, you just go in and look. You don't even have to buy anything, The government requires it or whatever. So finally, okay, it's time to get back to the motel. And I got back to the motel, got ready to go back to the airport, and the girl, you can buy me. Oh, no. What am I getting into? But I'll tell you what, I thought much more about that. Plus, I was almost broke because of the Cairo airline deal mess up in the hotel. So I just thanked her, gave her a tip, and took my ride back to the airport. So then I was off to Tokyo, Japan, which for some reason I can't find Bangkok or Tokyo pictures.
Yeah, you've got things listed here. Tokyo, Disneyland
was unreal. If you've been to like Disneyland in Florida or California, Tokyo's so clean. You could eat off the ground. And I had a ball. There's a jungle cruise, fake animals, and you go on a little boat through there. And we're coming up on a waterfall like you're going to go into it. It's at all three of the parks, and you turn at the last second. But this guy announces, like, he is just freaking out. I am just laughing so hard because I have no idea what he said. But it turned out, it's the same as the other ones. It's just different setups. Space Mountain was a little different.
And then what about this Osaka bullet train?
That's when I was supposed to meet my brother. I was going from Tokyo to Osaka is about 3 hours. Okay. And when I first was booking a bullet train, I thought it was one of them levitating trains up high. But it was pretty much on the same thing as a high-speed train in Paris, except the tracks are a little more shaky. But the 3 hours I was on this to Osaka airport, there was this old Japanese guy, and they sell picnic lunches. And he was offering me this and that. No, thank you. He finally gave me a beer, and it's like, I got to take something from the guy. So I took the beer and had that, and he disappeared before I could even thank him. But so I went to Osaka Airport, and from Osaka Airport, well, a couple more things in Tokyo. They have vending machines on the street everywhere. You can buy just about anything in a vending machine.
Oh, is that right?
Really cool. Yeah, it was. It's like a space-age city. They had an underground mall that went to the train station, and you could walk forever in these. And I know
an underground mall, like a shopping
shopping center with you're all underground. I know. I had lunch there. I had McDonald's.
Gosh.
Yeah, I know. But I got a craving back in Egypt for a caramel sundae from McDonald's. It was the weirdest thing in the world. Why I wanted a caramel sundae. I finally got my caramel sundae. So from Tokyo on the train ride to Osaka, I flew on to Hawaii, which was 8 hours, which was terrible. I would leave Osaka, say at 7 o'clock Sunday night, and I got to Hawaii 7 o'clock Sunday morning. So you've been up all day. Now you're reliving the day over again. And talk about a jet lag.
Yeah. So you don't have any pictures of Hawaii?
Oh, I have a lot, but I'm thinking Hawaii is a whole nother subject.
Oh, really?
Because I have been to Hawaii 10 times.
Okay.
And I thought that would be a whole show
Oh, okay.
someday,
We
maybe.
could do that sometime. Yep.
But this is from Hawaii. It was back to the West Coast and home. It took
Oh,
me
okay.
probably 30 days to do the trip.
Uh-huh.
And
Are we talking about your second trip?
yeah, the
today?
second trip,
You went to London, England first.
yeah, that was my across the Atlantic place to go to. So I got to London. I was only there for a few hours, but I was jet lagged, and I took a double-decker bus ride, and I kept falling asleep. Mm-hmm. And I finally, I'm like sicker than a dog because of this jet lag.
Oh.
And the bus stops
yeah.
at a corner, and I walk down, and there's a girl announcing, and I tap on her. I go, "Can I get off?" And I got off, and I had to find my way back to that Victoria station.
Oh. Did you throw up?
No, but I was close. It was, jet lag is something that's just unreal. Because the first trip I really was bad. The second trip, that was it. Because after I left London that night, I got my motel about time to get a shower and go back to the airport.
Oh.
The next one is really interesting.
You went from England to Singapore?
16 hours of flying plus an hour layover for fuel. That is a long plane ride. It's just, but so I'm in Singapore. I'm feeling good. I'm only there 24 hours, but my job, I would select orders on Friday night at Flickinger's. It was a food retailer, and they didn't get delivered till Monday. I was already in Singapore before the food was getting delivered, and I'm over halfway around the world.
Oh.
And it's like, that was sort of weird, but Singapore's right. I think I said it's right on the equator, and it's hot.
Yeah.
And I was only there 24 hours, and I just walked around. They had a bus that took you to a mall, and after that I saw how I got there, and I just walked around, and later on I went to an alligator farm and just walked. But Singapore I had to go to because my second trip around the world, my main destination was Hawaii or Australia.
Uh-huh.
And I arrived in Perth, Australia in the middle of the night. I had a hotel paid for.
And it was raining.
And it was total downpour. And I got to the motel, and it was booked solid. And the guy goes, "Well, we have another motel. Gives me like $7 cab fare and tells me to go. It's not very far away to the motel." So I went there, got in, and we're right in town now, so it's really nice. So I spent a couple days in Perth. Girl I had for a foreign exchange student, she was from Perth, but we never connected while I was down there. And now my next destination, I'm going to get on the Indian Pacific train. Now this is a 3-day train ride across Australia, and these are just out my window.
Pictures you took out the window.
Took out the window because the first 2 days are mostly in desert.
Nice car.
Oh yeah, I don't know if they were having a car ride across, like antique cars going across it. This road followed the train line. This is a train. It's the Indian Pacific. It's pretty famous. This is one of our stops. Every time I could stop, and get off for a couple of minutes, because 3 days on a train gets to be quite a while.
Oh, yeah.
This is a picture of the hallway. To the right is a second picture. That's called a zigzag.
A zigzag?
You're going through the mountain like this, zigzagging through this mountain.
Yeah.
And now on this mountain I go through, I'm looking up on the hill, and there's an old antique train up there, and it's like, oh, I'd love to ride that. Well, I found out it started in Sydney and took you up for a picnic up in the mountains.
Oh.
But the train ride for 3 days, had a first class seat. You got to go up in a food car. Well, in the back of the train was, they call them the sit-up seats, where you just pay, not the first class, you just sit in a seat for 3 days. I went back there and partied with a bunch of kids from around the world.
Oh.
They were on there, I ran into them, and I could go back there, but they
You were
couldn't.
pretty young then?
I was 30,
30?
if that old.
And younger than that, the first trip.
Yeah,
Yeah.
this would have been 1988, the second trip. First was in 77. But I could party with them, but they couldn't come back up. Chris had another picture here. This is the Sydney Opera House. This is famous. Anytime you see Australia, you're going to see a picture of the Opera House. Just walking around Sydney. Okay, this picture here, in the background, can't really tell, is a nude beach.
Oh,
It's right in
okay.
Sydney Harbor. Well, there's a boat there. You can't tell so much in the boat, but they had binoculars. And I was getting a picture, trying to get the pictures of them with the binoculars, looking at the people on the beach.
Oh,
But it was like a 2-hour cruise of Sydney Harbor, and I got sunburned like you can't believe. Now, this is Sydney Harbor, and it was 1988. They had all the big ships from around the world there because it was military ships. It was the bicentennial of Australia. And I walked around there later on and got on one of the American ships. Now, this is a view out my window at my motel at Sydney Harbor in the daytime. Beautiful. I loved it.
yeah.
This is the airline, Qantas, and I did most of my, from London to Hawaii, it was all on Qantas. The reason I got the Qantas here was because from Sydney I went to Melbourne, Australia. I'm not sure. Is there any more pictures of Sydney, Chris?
You said you got a massive sunburn while you were in
Oh, yeah.
Sydney,
I did
Australia.
wear a hat.
You did
I
wear
got in a taxi cab the next day and I hit the ceiling when I hit a bump and I put my hand there and I was like, oh, man. And
Ouch.
I put a hat on after that, but this is the World Expo. It's in Brisbane. I went to Melbourne, Australia first. Melbourne, I was there, trained down there 14 hours, spent the night, and then flew to Brisbane to say that I'd been to where Olivia Newton-John was from. You know how everybody's got like their Lucy fan or something? I'm an Olivia Newton-John
You're an
fan.
Olivia
And I had to
Newton-John
just say I'd
fan.
been to Melbourne. I didn't see much of anything. Got there in the evening and flew out in the morning, but they were holding the World Expo in Brisbane, Australia.
I see they've got you got a picture with rows of different colors of flowers.
Yeah,
It looks
and they had a
like.
monorail. This was just a few-minute walk from my motel. Before we get to here, in Brisbane, I got there, and if people ever known how bad it is to wait for your suitcases at an airport, well, I waited. It was hot. I waited. They never came. Now, what do? One plane that day was on its way to Hong Kong, and one plane was on its way to Europe. And I thought my suitcases were on the planes because they never came.
Oh.
And I had to give all the information. So I had to go out and buy some clothes to wear because everything I had was in my suitcases.
Yeah, yeah.
And it was like I had to go shopping.
Yeah, that's no fun when you...
No, it was
when you-
scary because the planes are going
when
so
you lose
far,
your
you're never
baggage.
going to see it again. So I went to the expo that day, and when I got back to my motel, there was my suitcases minus the padlocks. They'd got stuck in Sydney. They'd had to slow down at the airport.
Oh.
They brought them, delivered them to my motel, and I was so happy. It's
Yeah.
like everything I had was there. Chris, you got the picture of the lady in the golf cart?
The lady in the golf
Oh, yeah.
cart.
I'm going to see if you know this lady.
Do
Okay.
I?
Do you know this lady? I'm going to give you a hint. She's from England.
Is it Queen Elizabeth?
Nope.
Is it the second wife of her son?
Oh, it's Sarah Ferguson, the Duchess of York.
Oh, you know, you can't.
It's
tell.
hard to tell there
There's
with a
something
hat.
about that weird hat that
Yeah.
she was wearing.
She was at the expo, and I was like really close to her. And she'd been in Australia for the bicentennial. She was pregnant for her first kid.
Uh-huh.
And in Sydney, they give her a little stuffed kangaroo with a condom in the pouch.
Oh,
And they said she got as red as her hair. And I was like, but yeah, she was at the expo. She's not, I think she's divorced now from the royal family.
Oh,
but-
is she?
Yeah.
Yeah, I suppose.
But Brisbane was really cool. The expo was interesting. If you've ever seen a little hovercraft like the fire department has, they had a ride on the river there, and they take you out and they spin you around and stuff, and this hovercraft was pretty fun. The next thing was 19-hour bus ride to a place called Townsville. And
Townsville, oh.
Townsville is going to be, say, in the United States, about where Washington, D.C. is. So I had to come up the side to Townsville. It was interesting. They had movies on the bus.
They had a floating hotel?
Yeah. That's what I was in Townsville for. It doesn't look so cool here, but my brochure of this was really neat. This hotel was built in Singapore.
Uh-huh.
It has 200 rooms. It was taken by a barge, which actually sank the load to get it on and raised up. Taken down, and it was connected in the Great Barrier Reef. The boat on the right is the only way, that and a helicopter were the only way to get there. It was a 2-hour ride by high-speed catamaran, and it was $70 just for the boat ride. And I got seasick on it.
Oh.
19 hours on a bus eating chips and junk, and I got really seasick. But once I got out to the motel, it was great. I scuba dived, I fished. Scuba diving, you get in a boat and you go for about 2 minutes, and you're in the greatest diving in the world. And fishing was sort of weird, but I mean, their bait's bigger than our fish in Chautauqua Lake. And they had a submarine ride there. But this motel lasted about a year, and then it went bust.
Oh,
Because
okay.
it was $270 a night for the motel, 2 hours to get there by boat.
So people really didn't want to stay there because it was...
It was hard to get all their supplies there. In case of a hurricane, these are floating platforms. It's like a dock. Their pool had already been destroyed in a hurricane. They had a place to land helicopters, but they took everything out and anchored it away from it. And they unhooked one side and let the wind blow it around in a circle. They call it a cyclone because they'd already had one. So this hotel ended up getting taken up to Vietnam. It was in the Saigon River for years. Couldn't make a go of it in Saigon, so they moved it back to Singapore, I think, and then they took it to Korea.
Oh.
And the last I've been able to trace it, it's on the border of a river between South and North Korea, but it's in like the shooting zone. So
The
I
shooting
don't think
zone. They're getting much business.
they don't do too much there, but it was a one of a kind back then. I saw it in a brochure, and it was just cool to see it in this brochure.
Yeah.
The people on the top were usually the employees, and they said they could feel it rocking a little. But you're stuck out there once you get out there. And I was there for 2 days, and it was great. So I am totally lost. Oh, okay. After I left that hotel, I spent the night in Townsville, and then I had another 5-hour bus ride to Cairns, Australia. That's up on the East Coast. My deal was I couldn't check my suitcase in at the airport, and they had no lockers. So I had to sit there all day for like 12 hours with my suitcases.
So
I
you
did
wound up
nothing.
being stuck at the airport. It was either that or walk all
Or leave
over the
your
place
carrying your
carrying a
suitcases.
suitcase.
So that did not work well. From Cairns, I flew to Honolulu. And Honolulu, I got there early in the morning. Well, this trip, I'd had some free tickets, so in the afternoon, my mom, my dad, my sister caught up with me there on some free tickets I had. And they got to spend, we'd spent about a week there almost. So I got them around Honolulu and let them see it. You know, they were real happy. My mom couldn't walk very good, though, so it was hard for her to get around, but they did tours. And here was my dad again. He didn't like to fly, but here he is back over in Hawaii. And he would not go up in the Diamond Head volcano. He was scared of heights. He really just drove up and right into the mountain. It wasn't that high, but to him it was like the end of the world. So he stood down at the end of Diamond Head while we went up and checked it out.
Are your parents still alive?
No, my dad's been gone almost 18 years. My mom died about 3 years ago. And my sister, she's got cancer, so but I got them all to Hawaii, so I was real happy.
Yeah.
See, back in the days I traveled, if you've heard of frequent flyer miles,
Oh, yeah.
I signed up for that, and I ended up with quite a few free trips. After the first trip to Hawaii, I qualified for another one to go back to Hawaii. I was like, okay. You had to go in February, and I had to beg for a week off from work without pay so I could go back to Hawaii.
Oh, gosh.
So I get to Chicago. This is on American Airlines. Get on the plane, and they're overbooked. They start offering $100 to take a later flight. Nah, I'll lose the motel and stuff. They got up to $500. It's like, take me. So I get off the plane. I go in the terminal. I think I was there 3 or 4 extra hours. They give you money for food. They give you the $500 voucher. Flew first class to Los Angeles instead of a nonstop to Honolulu. Left my camera at security, headed to another airline called Western Airlines, which they'd booked me on. I had to run back, and it was still there. So I got on Western Airlines. I got to Hawaii 5 hours later. It was like about 9 o'clock at night, and Kilauea volcano on the Big Island was glowing, and you could see it out the plane as you're coming in to land in Oahu. That was like well worth the 5 hours, $500 already on a free ticket. So it's been really interesting. From Hawaii, my parents went on one airline, I went on the other, and I went to California. Went right down to the train station and took a train. See, I love big travel and things.
Now, it said that you visited Universal Studios.
Oh, yes.
Do you have a picture with you here?
I don't think I have Universal in this. I didn't do much with the rest because Universal is a several-time trip. But this time, when I got to California, a friend that I worked with was waiting for me because we were going to go to the Price is Right TV show. And they weren't filming that day, so he's all upset. And his travel agent was a friend of his and put him in the worst part of Anaheim. So he got there a day or so before I did. He's homesick, and he just... So we went to Universal. I think he'd been there the day before on a tour, and they had a scene out of a movie, a space movie, where they put 2 people in spacesuits, hang them way up high from a wire and do the blue screen. So it looks like they're doing this movie, and he got to do that, so that was his highlight. We went back down into Long Beach for dinner, and I'd rented a Cadillac, and he swore somebody at the Sizzler Steakhouse was hot wiring some car. He would not let me go there and eat. So we ended up at McDonald's. Sure enough, some beggar comes up to him trying to beg money, and he's like, I was used to it, but he was like freaking because some guys tried to beg money off us. We stayed there and watched the World Series, and then he flew back on one airline, and I flew back on another.
And you went to Las Vegas.
Vegas, oh yeah, I got there this is a crazy thing. I left Hawaii, flew to California, went right to the train station, got on the train, and trained to Las Vegas, which it's quite a few hour train ride, and I was jet lagged. You're going to hear that jet lag because it's terrible. And I kept falling asleep, and I'd hear the girl like announce and stuff. And finally, I got to Vegas at like 8 or so at night, and I gambled till I don't know what it was, 3 or something in the morning, 4. Went to a motel I rented, showered, went right back to the airport, flew back to California to catch up with that friend that we were going to the Price is Right with. But Vegas was I lost track how many times I was in Las Vegas. Hawaii was 10 times. And
we are down to 3.5 minutes. I kind of wanted to ask, how was security on your travels compared to these days?
Security was not too bad. Paris was rough. Tel Aviv was really bad because they're just real paranoid over there because they have too many attacks. The rest of it wasn't too bad. I mean, I got to London the first trip, and there was 2 lines. If you didn't have anything to declare, you could just go through the green line and never even had to talk to anybody. And it was like you felt guilty the whole time you were there. It's like, here I am in another country, and I didn't really have to talk to any customs people. Nowadays, I would expect how airlines are charging for suitcases. It would almost cost me more for suitcases than the airplane tickets did.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it was like
Wow.
the basic round the world fare back then to go in the upper part, like Europe and Japan and stuff, was $1,900, which is not bad. And Australia was about $2,500. The first trip I used several different airlines, trained around Europe, did the Australia train ride. On the second one, I did the Japan train rides, and I added all kinds of different things until that jacked it up. But it was really, I mean, I hate to say it, but I spent like $70,000 traveling.
Gosh.
I was spending 10 grand a year. I had to have a plane ticket at all times. In fact, when I met the kid's mother, was the second. As soon as I got back from the second trip around the world, the guy at work wanted me to blind date with her, and well, I'm leaving in a couple days for Florida. I'll have to wait till I get back. I would come back from around the world. A few days later, I'm off to Florida. I went to Tokyo Disneyland, California Disneyland, and Disney World in Florida within 5 months of time frame on 3 different trips. I did 6 trips a year for several years.
Wow.
And I haven't flown now since 2009.
Oh, okay. So you're not still doing all
No,
of
I
this
can't afford it anymore.
foreign travel?
It was pretty reasonable back then. I mean, nowadays, airfares have just gotten insane.
Is that Hawaii right there?
Oh, yeah, this is Hawaii. This is one of my favorite things, palm trees. Waikiki Beach. Years later, I lost my first wedding ring in Waikiki Beach.
Oh.
And my favorite part of Hawaii was the sunset. Usually there's a bunch of dinner cruises that'll line up out there. There's actually a cable under the water they connect to, and they go out and have dinner cruises for the sunset. And I always said when the sun goes down, you can hear the water sizzle when it hits the water.
Oh, was that right?
Oh, yeah. And it was so cool because the Japanese would put their camera on a tripod, jump in a picture with their girlfriend or their wife. That's all you saw on the whole beach was Japanese in that sunset. But the sunsets still had film cameras, and 36 pictures you could shoot in like 3 or 4 minutes, trying to get the different boats in.
Well, we've come to the end of another episode of Fresh Perspectives. Thank you for being on today.
Well, I hope I didn't bore people too much. But if you ever get a chance to travel, do